Hey everybody, welcome back to the Soulless Innovations YouTube channel. Today's episode, we'll be installing one of our 65 to 72 bolt-on front air suspensions for the short wheelbase F100s. As you can see here on the table, we got everything laid out that you'll get in your kit. You'll get 2 frame rails, driver and passenger, set of upper control arms, a K-member, a forward cross member, set of lower control arms, ball joints for the upper and lower control arms. You will get, if you decide to purchase the steering rack from us, you will get a set of steering rack mounts, bump steer kit, as well as all of your hardware. And your hardware comes individually packaged and labeled so you know what they go to. And then you'll also get a set of these sandwich plates. These will go inside your frame rail when you bolt your rails on. Makes it a little easier to, instead of having to reach in there and hold the nut or hold a wrench on the nut on the inside of the frame rail. So now that we have all that, let's move forward with the installation part of it. Before we get started, let's get this frame cleaned up. Now that we got everything unboxed, kind of showed you what everything is, let's get started over here. So the first thing you want to do is you got 5 rivets in your cab mount, 1 bolt, and then you got a couple of rivets in this radius arm mount, and then this bolt also. So you get the cab mount off, get your radius arm mount off, and get this center cross member out. We'll get that done, and then we'll move to the next step. So that's the hardest part of the whole job, is getting those rivets right there out, those radius arm mounts and that whatever that crossing was for out of there. I know a lot of you northern guys are probably cussing me right now because of how easy I got those bolts out. But they don't always work out that way. There's a lot of times you got to cut those off or even get the torch out and make them liquid to get them out. I just got lucky today. They came out with the impact. So now that we have all that out of the way, we'll move on to the next step, and that involves cutting the frame on. We'll start off with, we're going to remove this clutch bracket. Like I was saying a while ago, I don't always get lucky with the bolts. That nut that's welded to the inside of the frame right there, it just come broke loose because that bolt's rusted in there. Luckily, that ain't going to affect us. What we're going to do now is we're going to come to the forward hole where your cab mount was mounted. You're going to measure 1 inch in front of that, and that's where you're going to cut your frame on. As I was saying, you want to find your measuring tape and a marking utensil. You want to come off of this forward cab mount hole, and from the very front of the cab mount hole, you want to come over 1 inch and make a mark. Once you have your mark established, get you a square. You're going to set that on top of the frame, and you're going to draw a line straight down on that frame rail. It's not going to be straight. It'll be square with the top of the frame rail. That's how you want it cut off. That right there is where you're going to cut your frame rail off. Before you cut it, though, you want to come in here and these 4 side holes, you want to drill those out to 1/2 inch. That's where we're going to bolt our frame rails back on. You're going to utilize those 4 cab mount holes, the 2 on top, and if you're not body dropping, you're going to use the ones on the bottom as well. The top and bottom bolts are already the correct size. You just want to drill. So as I was saying, we're going to drill the side holes, the 4 you knock the rivets out to 1/2 inch. That's where we're going to bolt our new frame rails on. If you're body dropping yours, which we'll cover that more in detail on another video, but if you're going to body drop, you're going to be cutting the bottom of your frame rail off, so you're going to lose those bottom bolts anyway. And then of course you'll need to box that back in. And we do recommend welding our front kit on once you body drop. But you'll still use the top holes and the 4 side holes to align your kit, do all of that, and then you can weld it in. Let's get these drilled out. So now that we have those drilled out, and I dropped everything, we can come in here, we can cut our frame off on both sides. You can use a Sawzall, plasma cutter, a grinder with a cut-off wheel. At that point, it's pretty much dealer's choice. As you can tell, I had to take a step back. I forgot to mention something a while ago. So I'm making this now, and I'll edit it in to the beginning of the video. But first thing you want to do whenever you're getting ready to put our front kit on is you want to remove any wiring, fuel lines, brake lines, anything of that nature that you don't want damaged. You definitely don't want any fuel lines up there because there's going to be some sparks involved. And so you want to get all that out of your way. I let it slip my mind because our frame was already stripped down. I just feel like that's something I should mention to everybody. I understand it's a little bit of common sense, but hey, things slip people's mind just like it slipped my mind just now. Luckily, we didn't have any of that in ours, so it didn't affect me. But that's just something I wanted to mention, that make sure you remove your brake lines, fuel line wiring, e-brake cables if you're going to keep that. Anything that you don't want cut or damaged, bent, anything along those lines, let's go ahead and get that out of the way before you start cutting any of the rivets off or anything like that. You can go ahead and pull all that stuff out while you're pulling your engine and stuff out of the way. All right, no turning back now. Let's get it cut off. Front end's gone. We'll get all this cleaned up. then we can get our kit installed. So now that we got all that out of the way, we'll take our wire wheel and get these frame rails cleaned up. So now I got all the outsides of the frame rails wire wheeled off. All the rust and road grime built up from over the years is off of there. And I had a couple of rivets in the bottom that I couldn't get to with everything still on it. I was able to knock those out now, because if you're not body dropping yours, you're going to need those holes for bolting your kit on. So now that we got that all cleaned up, let's start test fitting parts. Now that we got our frame cut off, we've got this rail slipped on, we'll start putting our bolts in. Got my little helpers here to show you how easy it is. Calvin, put your bolt in one of the holes. No, in the side, right here. All right, so hold it while I put the nut on. You got to hold it in place. Hold it. All right, now Olivia, you put yours in that hole. Hold it while I put the nut on. All right, just like that, guys. It's just that easy. Ain't that right?
Yeah.
Let's go watch our video. All right, now we're going to finish the install on this. What do we do next?
I don't know.
You don't know? Well, you the boss around here. You're supposed to tell me what to do. What do we do next? Do we get that other rail on? All right, let's give that a try. Here, you can help me put a bolt in. Put it in that hole right there. All right, you can put the nut on the inside. Just sticking up through enough to put the nut on it. You got it started? Huh? Well, you put one in the bottom right here. In the bottom hole. Not here. Oh. Pick the nut up. You got it tight? That's good. That's tight enough. Hey, that's tight enough. And now, Callum put the first ones in. Put the bolt in. Put it in one of the holes. And me put the nut on the inside, or you want to do it? Me? Okay. You got it? You holding it? All right. Here you go. One more. You did the first two. Sister's turn. You got to take turns, remember? That's how we get things done. All right. Now we got two frame rails on. What do we put on next? The cross member that goes under here? All right. Alright, now that we have both of our rails mocked up onto the frame, we can come back with our sandwich plates and install those. These will slip right inside the frame. They are side specific, so make sure you get the right side. These will slip inside the frame, and they keep you from having to hold a wrench on the inside to tighten all of this up. And again, you don't want to tighten everything, you just want to get all your bolts started. And you will still have to use a regular 3/8 nut and bolt on the top, but that will take care of your sides. So now that we got our frame rails installed, we're going to come over back to our table. We're going to locate our K-member, and we're going to locate our bag that has labeled for K-member bolts. All right, now that we got our frame rails installed, and we got our K-member and we've located the bolts for it, let's get that installed. You ready? Just like that, our K-member is test fit in place. Now we can get the forward cross member put in, and then we can start tightening everything down. Now that we have our K-member mocked up in place and loosely bolted in, we'll move on to our forward cross member. So to install this, you're going to find your forward cross member and your pack of 3/8 bolts with lock washers. To start with, this is why we leave everything loosely bolted up, because you may have to pry these frame rails out a little bit to get this in, because everything's, of course, not bolted in yet. But once you get this, just line your bolt holes up and get all your bolts started. And again, we're just going to loosely bolt this in until we get everything squared up. Now that we have everything mocked up, we can start tightening our bolts up. We want to start in the back where the frame rails connect to the original frame. We're not going to torque anything yet. We're just going to get everything kind of snugged up in place. So we'll start here, then we'll move to the K-member. We'll get it snugged up a little bit, and then we'll snug our front cross member up, and then we'll pull some measurements to make sure we're square. Now that we have everything tightened up, pull a few measurements, make sure that all of our parts are where they're supposed to be, width-wise, front to back, and then we'll move on with torquing everything down. Perfect. Now that we have all of our everything squared up, let's get our bolts tightened down. And just like that, we successfully installed one of our 65 to 72 bolt-on front air ride systems. I hope this answered a lot of questions for you guys. If there's any other questions that I didn't address here, please leave a comment below. If you like what you saw here, hit the subscribe button. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'll link those accounts in the description below. I'll also put a link for the front kit in the description. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.